Right, hey everyone, I'm Clip. So, the last hero has finally been showcased, Victor Goldmane. But before we get to that, right, we're about at the halfway-ish point for spoilers. There's still a lot of juicy cards left, mainly, Majestic, because they're kind of the most impactful cards, as well as equipment. So I thought, why don't we have a little bit of fun speculating? But before we do jump to heavy hitters, I wanna do some speculating for the future, right? There's two more sets in the year. And we know there's 10 new heroes at the very least, right? So it could be, 6 and 4, could be 5 and 5 again, and still keep them trio class sets and then have 1 and 1, right? 6 and 4 is a interesting thought because what it does work with is another set like heavy hitters and then Aria, right? That's one potential. 5 and 5 also kind of works, right? You could still have 6 and 6, but through, one old and then 5 new. So yeah, next set up, personally, looking at the classes that have been touched. So heavy hitters marks the retouching on. God, that does not sound great. Marks the reusing of Warrior, Guardian, and Brutes at the forefront of a set. Okay, so that leaves what classes untouched, right? That have only featured in one set so far. That is Runeblade, Wizard, and technically Illusionist, right? If you think of stock stand Illusionist, since we've never had one. But Wizard and Runeblade are the big one. I don't think they do duo, nor do I think they sort of combine as well as maybe Runeblade, Wizard, and Illusionist. Now, I know Necromancer has been floated a lot. But something that always comes to mind for me, though, is a normal Illusionist, right? Not Prism, not Dromai, is kind of a Necromancer, right? A lot of the cards we've seen are quite ghastly, are they not? And then the color scheme, to me personally, is already Necromancer. So I could see them doing a Necromancer class, but it just being Illusionist. Now, of course, the only issue with that is if, they added a whole bunch of X summons for a regular Illusionist, well, then Dromite and Prism would have access to them. So I could also see them always only doing a talented Illusionist. That way there is no crossover between their actual minions and the ones that they're summoning. But yeah, so like these are, they're not ghoulish like Dark Necromancer, but they are somewhat ghastly. They're definitely ghosts and weird creatures and spirits. So I could see either Necromancer just being a variant of Illusionist or them trying to do something with just a base Illusionist. Would take a lot of balancing. We have seen Kasai. So Kasai is, if anything, a test at another minion class, right? Since they have the option to build a lot of cell swords, now Necromancer would be that even greater. And, they'd probably get rid of the Phantasm mechanic if it was separate to Illusionist. But I definitely would say Runeblade and Wizard, at the very least, in the next set. I think they combine well enough with Illusionist, again, with the thematics and their stylizations, right? And you can have sort of the go-between, Wizard, heavy arcane, Illusionist sort of in the middle, and then Runeblade more the physicality, still with some arcane. So I definitely would expect at least Runeblade or Wizard to pop up in the next set, just given, again, the fact that they are the least touched upon class. We also have Dromai and Fae, right? They're closest to Living Legend. So if they were going to just get rid of the elemental talent system, and we'll probably do another video on that because that is a real headache to unpack, right? I never really looked into it, right? I always heard the talk about how it's not the greatest for the game, and I now understand a bit better why exactly it is such a balancing nightmare and a huge can of worms opened. So I could see them skipping Aria and doing, a Runeblade Wizard X set into Draconic again, right? Maybe. I don't know how I'd feel about that, but that's a maybe. Or, they could scrap talents altogether and then go back to Assassin, Ninja, Ranger, and then we just sort of follow this cycle, right? Go Warrior, Guardian, Brutes, and then Runeblade, Wizard, and X. Maybe Illusionist, or maybe a new class, right? And then just that's the way it's going to go for normal tri-sets. And then every now and then we get a supplemental set. Every now and then we get a talented set. But definitely interesting thought. Really just, again, probably 80% sure to expect Runeblade and Wizard in the next set. They are untouched upon. Well, Wizard, we do have, obviously, Icelander, and Runeblade, we do have Vizette and Chain, right? But they are pretty decent departures. Icelander, not as much as Vizette and Chain, but from the quintessential playstyle, right? So just looking at the base classes again, anyone interested, Brute Guardian, Warrior took 51 months, Ninja took 41 months, Mechanologist 42, Ranger 35, Light Illusionist and all the Shadow classes and Light Warrior, 26 months. And then the ones that have been untouched, again, the Elementals, so Elemental Guardian, Ranger, Runeblade, and Wizard, Draconic Illusionist, Draconic Ninja, Assassin, although we did get, obviously, Dynasty, and then straight into Outsiders. So I don't consider that a time frame, right? Because that is just one set to the next. Well, if you want, it's, like 4 months. But yeah, so I don't think they'd retouch on Assassin anytime soon. Again, for the momentum of the game and continue things, going at a steady pace, I would assume they continue to cycle around. But, we did see Light Monarch revisited a bit earlier than what I would think most people expected, at least personally. Again, right, there's just so much to work with the game that it's hard to know if it's Living Legend shaping it or if it's, the sets and the roadmap they have laid out. So it'll be interesting. Again, just to sum it up, right? Runeblade Wizard X for the next set. And I would say a coin toss, right? That the last set of the year is Aria. And in terms of the classes, probably what I would expect is 5 and 1, right? Or potentially 6. I could get this to work if we went straight up with the 4 elementals, right? Everyone but Stravo. Otherwise, I would expect 5 and 1, 5 and 1. Again, either a new iteration of what we have or reusing the same characters, right? So Stravo, Oldhim, because they are, pretty different. They could flip up the elementals. I don't know, right? And then we have Briar. Who else do we have? Lexi. And Icelander, right? So then they just have to come up with one. And, none of them technically can be reprints because they've all allowed, which is why Aria, I would say, is a pretty safe bet. Again, it's the set that is now the least applicable to the game. Again, I treat Class Constructed as the main crux of the game, right? So even though you can use cards kitchen table, you can use cards in other aspects of the game, their development cycle, to me, at the very least, is always revolved around Class Constructed. And then for the next set, again, Runeblade, Wizard, and X, kinda, again, like to see Illusionist. I think it fits. Wizard, I would expect them just to reprint Kano and give something else, right? Similar to what's happened with Rhino, again, because Kano is quite low on the Living Legend table. Ooh, scroll up, right? I think it's even lower than Rhino. Yeah. So if they did do Wizard, right, given the same mentality towards heavy hitters, I would fully expect them not to give 2 new classes, right, and then to re-emphasize Kano for Classic Constructed. Anyway, that's future talk done. What about heavy hitters, right? So we have Victor Goldbean somewhere, right? And first important thing, tokens. So there's 15 tokens. Anyone know what the star is? Right? I've tried looking everywhere. I can't figure it out. Well, I can surmise what it could be, right? But I'll leave it be. If you know, let me know, right? So 15 tokens. We know what they are now, right? So the weapon revealed with Victor, I assume it's his. It's not on his page, which I also have open somewhere, right? I don't know if it just hasn't been updated, or again, if it's not his signature weapon, which is kind of weird because it fits his mechanic. It has his crest on it. It's also a interesting implication, right? Because he's obviously not the son of a miller here, right? So it's more he's come to this village, like their hammer, taken it, and probably embossed it himself with his crest and whatnot, which is very weird, right? To just walk up to a miller and take their hammer and turn it into your weapon. But yeah, so that is a rare weapon. That leaves 5. Let me be able to write. So that leaves 5 weapons, right? 1 for each of the other heroes. KO is a little bit interesting, right? Because he still has the mandible claws in his artwork. That is a rare weapon. But I would expect, right, 1 for KO, 1 for Rhina, 1 for Betsy, 1 for Kasai, which we've already seen, the Centauri Saber, 1 for Olympia, which I would have truly guessed before seeing Victor that Olympia's would have been the non-token weapon, right? And it would be his gold sync. But, well, we'll have to wait and see. Maybe his armor's gold sync. Who knows? And then we have Might, Vigor, Agility, so that's 3, and Gold, so that's 4. So that's 9, plus then the Sellsword, so that's 10 in total. And then the 6 heroes. Okay, I've miscounted. Let's just do it again. So we have 6 heroes, 4 tokens, right? Agility, Might, Vigor, and Gold. the sellsword, so that is 11 so far. Okay, it's 4 weapons, right? So then I would expect, given the artwork, right, either KO or Olympia to have the other non-token weapon, and then there to be 4 token weapons, right? Because it's 15, not 16. Just double check, because it threw me for a loop what I was thinking. Yeah. And then, yeah, the rest are, I don't know what's going on there. Someone explain to me. Now, interestingly, what else that leaves, right? So we have 2 weapons here, and then 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there is enough slots after every hero, right, that we've seen, for there to be a I don't know what rarity, but a full equipment set as well as a couple pieces. Now I know Majestics are always hard, right? Because there could be something here, there could be another specialization, there could be Majestics beforehand, and then there could be Majestics after. But I could see them doing something similar to Dusk Till Dawn, right? And giving a draft set of equipment for every class, and that way there's something fun and flavorful other than just grabbing the grandstand and the stadium pieces and then whatever extra pieces you find. Because it feels like in terms of limited play and draft, they want, you know, a mostly complete board. And to do that, the best thing to do would be to have, again, a plethora of armor, so 4 pieces of common gear for everyone, right, for you to find and have most of, to mix with the normal generic set, as well as whatever specialty equipment you do find. There are also only 5 legendaries, right? Yeah, so that's not that many, right? It's certainly not 1 each, and I would assume that we might see something in the, up here, in the generic slot, and maybe one of the expansion slot cards as well, right? Just to give it a little bit extra chase. So, you know, say a good 3 to 4, right? That's definitely not enough to occupy all those slots. If I quickly count the Majestics, we might be able to figure out a little bit more. So the simplest thing to do is count, right, from Majestic to Majestic, and then we'll total that up and see how it compares to the amount given, which is 40. Right, so there's 18 so far, so that leaves 22. I would highly assume, right, that that's part of the expanded slot, and potentially, again, if there's no legendary, this is another 4, right? So that puts us to 22 and 18 remainder. You've then got the cards in the generic slots, right? Call it 2 to 3. Right, and then the cards beforehand. I still, again, looking at the numbers, feel that there could be a just draftable armor set for every single class. And again, it would just help improve the play of Limited. So I do think that's something they're settling with going forward, right? Again, there was heavy emphasis on just usable equipment in Bright Lights. Same with Dusk Till Dawn. Seems like that's the blueprint, right? Expansion slots, a bunch of draftable equipment, which, you know, doesn't make us that happy because it's not usually usable equipment outside of drafting, but still a fun inclusion. As for the Fable, right? So most people want a Brute Fable. I could see them, though, doing, you know, a trophy or, again, just a straight up Brute, similar to the Everfest Guardian Fable, right? Just something to help with them, pitch it, intimidate, I don't know. Could be fun. Okay, what else does that leave us with? Actually, that's not the talking point. So Clash. Clash is the Guardian thing, right? Which, cool. You're right, I was wrong. Concede. But we have not seen any Clash cards, right? We've got the hammer, that's fine. But we haven't seen any other Clash in Guardian yet, right? Even the ones we've reeled were generic and then Warrior Brute, funny enough. So that is interesting. Maybe they're saving the best for last. Maybe they are going to be super powerful cards. The other thing with the hammer, right? Since this is rare, that means... Well, actually, sorry, second thought, right? So if KO's weapon is the Mandible, and it is a rare slot, that would not work. The reason for that is Reiner is most likely another two-handed club, whether or not it's just the Romping Club, or they give him a new weapon similar to Prism, and then they just, you know, tag both as his signature weapon now. I could see them doing that, or I could see them just giving him a new token weapon to play around with. But what doesn't work then, right, if KO's main weapon is rare, because he is limited to one-handed. So if Reiner and the token weapon for Brute is two-handed, then that would not be good for drafting. So I take it back. I don't think KO's is the Mandible Claw, or it could be, you know, like busted Mandible Claw and have it as a token, something like that, right? Because, again, art. But yeah, so it wouldn't work if it was one token, one rare, unless Reiner's was also one-handed. And then in terms of Guardian, what we were talking about before, so the Miller's Club, right? I would assume the reason it's rare is they don't want Betsy or Victor to have dual clubs versus everyone else's weapons, right? In draft, that's a little too much card value. So they want to slow it down. They want to make sure at best you only get one. Though, again, the worry is this is the main clash mechanic, it looks like, for Victor. So you're not guaranteed to get it every time you draft. So if you want to play Victor, you're kind of just waiting to see if you get the weapon. Otherwise, if you're in Guardian, you'll play Betsy. I don't know how that feels for the draft mechanic. So yeah, so I would, in this scenario, then expect Olympia's weapon to be the other rare or better weapon, right? And I still think it is probably his Gold Sync. Something just to power it up. I don't know, spend to buff it. We'll see what happens. But I think that's everything. Anything else for me to expect? Oh, actually, you know what? Let's take a guess at what cards are left, right? So if we are using Living Legend as the principle for how they pick the expansion slot cards, then I would fully expect it to go Ninja, right? And Wizard. This card, though, I'm not too sure, right? Because usually in sets, Assassin is first nowadays. It had a weird placement in Dynasty, right? But since Bright Lights, it went Assassin, Brute, Guardian, Warrior, Wizard, Illusionist, right, from the cards that we saw. And I would fully expect a Wizard card because, well, Kano is still not doing too well, so he needs the support. And the fact that he's gone from Blitz really opens up what they can do creatively. Ninja, more so, it just fits because of the slots, and I don't see them doing more than 2 cards. I feel like 1 to 3 is sort of their max for the expansion slot. So I could, in that case, I could actually see 3 Assassin and then 3 Ranger. But I do think it'll be Ninja cards, right? Where are they on Living Legend? Because I didn't actually think about that too well. So we have Katsu and Faye, all actually relatively high, right? Katsu's middle field, just slightly below, and then Faye's obviously top. So maybe not Ninja. Again, ordering makes sense for Ninja cards to be here. If it's not, then what could it be? Well, it could just be specializations for, say, Katsu, if they don't want to buff Faye directly. And then maybe something for Uzari, since we have the Arachne specialization. Yeah, that's not too bad of a bet. So 1 Uzari specialization and 1 Katsu. Although Katsu is probably not as necessary. And then for the first card, probably a reprint. And actually thinking about it, right? Where were the reprints in Bright Lights? Were they before or after the expansion slot? Like the main class cards. They were last, right? Along with the necessary tokens, which is interesting because gold is obviously not last, right? Despite just being the visual update. Interesting. The reason I'm not mentioning Brute, Guardian, or Warrior is obviously they feature in the set, right? Though I guess they could do like a Dorinthia specialization or a Bravo specialization. Bravo's high in the Living Legend board too, though, isn't he? Right? Bravo is, yep, right there. Dorinthia is lower than Katsu, so maybe. It'll be a good tell, nonetheless, to see if, again, Living Legend is directly shaping these choices, or if it is, it's somewhat shaped by Living Legend, and then these are just the lore, fun, flavorful cards. Obviously, Luminaris is directly a Living Legend choice, right? To buff up Prism and give it a more competitive form of its ability. But we also haven't gotten any lore text on any of these cards, right? And we have those 3 distinctive slots, so I could assume reprints, lore, silver, then Ninja, and this would still be Wizard. Anyway, that should do. What do you think? All right. Again, all this will be redundant in the coming weeks anyway. Hope you enjoyed. See ya.